Okay, guys, I'm going to do a quick video on two things I learned about Germany in the last couple weeks. So the first one was this video, why didn't Germany conquer all of France in 1940? This is a video by History with Hilbert. He does some pretty good stuff. There's one fact in here that I don't know where it is in the video,
when it
but
comes
we'll
to
go over it.
historical memes about France, the surrender meme is probably at the top of the most famous. Now, we can talk about whether that's warranted another time, but it might be more interesting to ask, why did France surrender in the Second World War? Potentially, this has become such an internet sensation, I say that as if it happened recently, because in 1940 it came as such a shock as compared to the First World War, when from 1914 to 1918 the French, together with their allies, the British and the Belgians on the Western Front, had stuck it out and for 4 years had fought on despite losing huge amounts of manpower, resources and indeed territory to the invading Germans. It was on the basis of a similar war being fought that the French government in the 1930s invested in a very heavily fortified area around their borders with Germany. This would become known as the Maginot Line. Further south, they would also create an Alpine Line, thinking that a similar...
Here it is. So basically, and I'm thinking this is World War II. It could have been World War I.
Retake France at some point from dual locations in North Africa and indeed in Britain. On the 16th of June, even some legislation was being prepared to this end for a declaration of union between the two, which the British hoped would allow the French Prime Minister, who was broadly in favour of the plan, of convincing the French government to join this union and thus to continue the fight against the Axis.
So this was after the Blitzkrieg and Germany overtook France. And this is incredible. I don't remember learning about this in history at all, history class. But the declaration was a proposal: France and Great Britain shall no longer be two nations, but one Franco-British Union. The Constitution of the Union will provide for joint organs of defense, foreign, financial, economic policies. Every citizen of France will enjoy immediately citizenship of Great Britain. Every British subject will become a citizen of France. So some sort of dual, it's one nation. So this would be in France, in occupied France. They'd become citizens of Great Britain, and every British subject would become a citizen of France. So it'd be some new nation. Now that's quite incredible. So let's listen to a little bit more of that.
It read, France and Great Britain should no longer be two nations, but one Franco-British Union. The Constitution of the Union will provide for joint organs of defense, foreign, financial and economic policies. Every citizen of France will enjoy immediately citizenship of Great Britain. Every British subject will become a citizen of France. Who knows how Henry V would have felt about all this. But in the end, the French government turned down this proposal in favour of surrendering to the Germans. Now, there were...
Okay, so this is just interesting to think about, that if they would have taken that route, what would have happened? But leads me to another video that came up on the feed. This video here by Knowledgia, what happened with the Germans of East Europe. Again, I haven't queued this up. I do remember what I want to talk about here, but listen to this.
As World War II slowly drew to an end, a sardonic joke was doing the rounds of the German army. Soldiers were saying to one another, "Enjoy the war, because peace will be hell." It was a grim recognition of the inevitable hardships that awaited them once the Allies had officially declared victory. But even the most pessimistic Third Reich soldier couldn't have predicted the brutal mass expulsion of Germans that took place in Eastern Europe after the war. Over 12 million Germans and ethnic Germans were expelled from countries such as Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Yugoslavia, and Russia. Millions of these refugees.
Take a look at this. Romania, 400,000 Germans. Czechoslovakia, 2.5 million Germans. Now, in high school, they teach you about the Marshall Plan and rebuilding Europe, but I didn't know it included relocation of Germans and centralizing all Germans. Because as you'll see, the German-speaking people across Europe, it was vast.
Refugees either died, were executed, or were sent to forced labor camps throughout Eastern Europe and Russia. In fact, for any Germans not living in rural West Germany, it was the beginning of a savage period of so-called peace. There were several factors behind the mass expulsion. Many Eastern Europeans who'd been subjected to cruelties at the hand of the Nazis wanted to make the Germans pay. It didn't matter if there were many Germans in Eastern Europe who'd had nothing to do with the Nazis. Another factor was geopolitical. The Allied powers, America, Britain, and the USSR, all agreed that German minorities.
So don't forget, right now we have a unified Germany. The Berlin Wall fell in 1989. And so if you were German in the USSR area, they were sent to East Germany. Of course, the other ones, some of them got sent to West Germany, which was, the Ally side.
Throughout Eastern Europe should be relocated. This meant either back to Germany or into labor camps to assist with war reparations. The idea was to quash any possibilities of fascism rising again in the future. This was one of the main issues at the Potsdam Conference in 1945. They all agreed that it was key to disassemble any German populations lying outside of Germany. Churchill explained it by saying, "Expulsion is the method which will be the most satisfactory and lasting." He went on to outline the Allied plan to create ethnically homogeneous states. This was believed to be the most effective way to maintain stability throughout Europe. And Churchill claimed that there will be no mix of populations to cause trouble. Germans had looked to settle across wide expanses of Europe. Centuries of Germans relocating across the continent had resulted in millions of ethnic Germans living in Poland, Russia, Hungary, Romania, and other regions.
It's really interesting to think about what that must have been like, what those communities were like, where you had different ethnic groups who speak different languages all throughout Europe. But another thing is kind of interesting. They're saying
Churchill claimed that there will be no mix of populations to cause trouble.
So there will be no mix of populations.
There will be no mix of
populations to cause trouble. I'll just leave that at that.
Of populations to cause trouble. Germans had looked to settle across wide
Anyway,
expanses of Europe. Centuries
this
of
video goes into, but that just is an astounding fact that if your country is in a war, you do not want to lose that war because the winning side is going to just call the shots. And I can't imagine what it was like for Germans to be resettled and, sent back to one specific location in Europe. Now, there has been some reports that Germany wants to leave the EU. And of course, the reason for NATO, some people think the reason for NATO is to keep Germany down. But anyway, what do you think about this? Is this something that you've heard about? Do you want to comment on it in the comments below? Let me know. And until next time, brain out.